Johnny, get your gun, get your gun, get your gun. Take it on the run, on the run, on the run. Hear them calling.
Hello, and welcome back to Frontline Rejects. Today on the channel, we're continuing our series on expansion testing. And the round that we'll be testing today is Nosler's 180 grain E-tip, chambered in 300 Winchester Magnum. And this is a monolithic, all copper bullet, and all rounds today are going to be fired through our Bergara B-14 HMR. We're very excited to see how this round performs. And of course, make sure you stick around at the end of the video, my favorite part, when we get into the graphing. Thanks for watching. Let's begin. Alright, so here we have our overview of all 5 rounds fired. At the 100 we can see pretty decent expansion, which begins to peter out as we get up to the 500 yard mark. A quick caveat I'd also like to add is that these were traveling a little bit lower velocity than what we'd been hoping for. We ended up chronographing these at around 2930. Really had been hoping for around 3050 or closer to 3100. At 100 here we can see pretty good expansion, and the round peeled itself back almost completely to the cannula. At 200 we can see that it's visibly already losing steam, but still excellent expansion. At 300 is when we can begin to visibly see that the pedals are not peeling themselves back nearly as far as they were at the earlier ranges. 400, decent mushrooming, but much higher up the shank. 500 looks very similar to the 400, but upon measuring we were able to note a slight decrease in the expansion. Looking at our graph here, we can see that with expansion at 100 yards we started out with slightly more than 2 times the round's original size, and then at each successive range we stepped down a tiny bit. Weight retention stayed excellent at all ranges fired. We had about 98% weight retention at each individual range, averaging plus or minus just a few tenths of a grain. In the end, our average expansion was 1.88 times the original size, and our average weight retention was 99.1%. As previously mentioned, our velocity here was a bit lower than what we could have expected had we loaded these rounds up to the max. We got about 2937 feet per second. 3100, I think these rounds would perform a lot better. And we did load these rounds conservatively. We used US 869, which is not the best powder for this particular cartridge, and we were about a grain off of the max charge weight. Had been running something like 4831, maybe MagPro could have gotten much higher velocity and gotten us much closer to that 3100 feet per second mark. Now, Nosler advertises for these rounds 95% weight retention. We got much higher than that, and I think that that is a direct result of the lower velocity. Had we had higher velocity, we would have had slightly lower weight retention, probably closer to their advertised weight retention, and I think that would have brought our average expansion up closer to 2 times the original size. With optimized load data, I feel like this round would perform excellently in this chambering, and we may in the future try loading these up with a max charge of a better powder to see how they perform. The reason we didn't do this initially is because I don't have experience using this particular round in this particular cartridge. And unlike a monolithic bullets from Barnes, the Nosler E-tips don't feature relief grooves throughout the bullet. And sometimes you can have pressure issues with all monolithic rounds when you load them up because they don't perform in the barrel the same way a common copper and lead bullet does. I do want to mention though that we didn't see any pressure signs during testing. So I think, in my personal opinion, that it would be safe for us to load these up near the max charge in the future, and that is something that we definitely are considering revisiting. As always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed today's content, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.